Coming up on a newscast, the nation's COVID-19 tally drops to its lowest in weeks and select distancing measures are eased. However, China is seeing a surge in cases on a scale not seen since the early days of the pandemic. Over in Ukraine, new reports of civilian executions in Bucha, hundreds of dead bodies and a mass grave are found. The 2022 Grammy Awards are held. This comes after months-long delay due to the pandemic, snubs and surprises. Hello, hope your week's off to a smooth start. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Let's begin with our top story. South Korea is taking steps to steadily return to normal life. From Monday, some antivirus measures in place are eased, including business hours and gathering limits. Shin Yoon went out to find directly from the people their thoughts on the changes.
With South Korea ready to treat the pandemic like an endemic, authorities have again adjusted the social distancing measures. They took effect on Monday, but at a time when the country had already added over 202,000 new infections by 6 p.m., up by more than 90,000 from the same time a day ago. But Monday's easing of measures are hoped to be the final stage of social distancing before antivirus curbs are lifted altogether. With gatherings of 10 now allowed and business curfews pushed back to 12 midnight, how are people reacting to the latest modifications?
I didn't even know they eased measures again on Monday. I don't think it's that significant anymore either because antivirus measures have changed way too much.
I'm happy that I can meet my friends for an extra hour. Because back when restaurants and cafes could only open till 11 p.m., some of my friends who lived far away had to go home really early or couldn't even make it.
The nation's small business owners made it clear that only a partial easing isn't enough. They said they would have preferred it if all measures were lifted completely. More specifically, they hoped there wasn't any sort of curfew.
While restaurants and cafes may stay open for an extra hour, this doesn't mean they will be able to operate. Most employees who use public transportation have to leave before midnight anyways because there aren't any subways or buses that run late into the night.
I hope the authorities will soon ease all distancing measures because business owners like myself are way too exhausted. We can't endure this situation any longer.
The authorities are expected to reassess the measures in 2 weeks before making another announcement. Many are now hoping that this is the final modification to the distancing rules before all measures are lifted completely. Shin Yoon, Arirang News.
China is seeing a type of surge in COVID-19 cases not seen since the early days of the pandemic. Shanghai is on lockdown, causing major concerns for businesses. Its government deployed military personnel to the financial hub to assist mandatory screening. A new variant believed to be the most infectious one to date has emerged in the UK. Kim Hyun-sung brings the updates.
China is once again battling a record surge in COVID-19 cases. The COVID-19 case count has surged to a level not seen since early 2020, with more than 13,000 daily cases reported on Sunday. More than half of the cases came from China's most populous city, Shanghai. Concerns are growing as local health authorities battle against an invisible opponent, as most cases are asymptomatic. Shanghai on Sunday reported 7,788 locally transmitted asymptomatic infections. The entire city, home to 26 million, is in lockdown. Shanghai authorities even ordered residents to go through 2 more rounds of COVID tests. The citywide lockdown has become a major disruption for businesses. Tesla, for example, has suspended production at its Shanghai factory indefinitely. The factory halted operations late last month, originally aiming for a 4-day pause. But the car maker gave further notice over the weekend that it will not be resuming production on Monday. It gave no further announcement of when it will be able to resume operations. The shutdown marks the factory's longest suspension since 2019. Meanwhile, international health experts are focusing their attention on a new hybrid COVID variant, XE. The XE strain is said to be a mix of the Omicron and Stealth Omicron strains. First found in the UK in January, there have been more than 600 cases of XC identified. The World Health Organization estimates the XD strain to be 10% more transmissible than the Omicron. But further studies are required to fully assess transmissibility, potential risk to health, and the scope of infection of this new strain. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol is busy putting together the cabinet. He tapped Han Duck-soo to become the prime minister, restoring the 72-year-old to a role he held more than a decade ago under a liberal administration. Lee Kyung-eun sheds light on what's ahead for incoming leader and the transition team.
President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol has picked former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to serve as the first PM under his new government. Yoon said Han is the right person for the economy and national security, two of the top priorities for Yoon's government.
경제와 안보가 하나가 된 경제 안보 시대를 철저히 대비해 나가야 합니다. 한덕수 총리 후보자는 민관을 아우르는 풍부한 경험을 바탕으로 내각을 총괄하고 조정하면서 국정과제를 수행해 나갈 적임자라고 생각합니다.
The 72-year-old has previously served as finance minister, prime minister, and ambassador to the U.S., playing a key role in negotiating the free trade agreement with Washington. And he's worked for both liberal and conservative governments, perhaps making him an even better pick for Yoon, who's been emphasizing unity. Also, such far-reaching experience is deemed critical for the new government's plan of enhancing the role of prime minister, which currently is largely administrative in South Korea.
The president-elect's plan is to shift excessive presidential rights to the cabinet so that ministers have greater authority in making decisions and taking responsibility for them. And I agree with that.
Han outlined 4 primary tasks: strengthen security, fiscal soundness, surplus in international balance of payments, and increase national productivity. And he said communication is key to achieving those goals.
One of the key factors deciding whether policies succeed will be bipartisan cooperation and integration.
That's especially true as the soon-to-be main opposition Liberal Democratic Party holds a majority in the Nat'l Assembly, so their cooperation will be pivotal for Yoon in pushing through policies or changes to the law. Such cooperation, in fact, will be needed in just a few weeks, which will see the parliamentary hearing for Han's nomination.
I will get started with thoroughly preparing for the upcoming hearing so that things can proceed smoothly.
The rest of the cabinet picks are expected to be finalized by next week. Young-eun, Arirang News.
Here to run the people's errands, here at their service. That's how President-elect Yoon described himself and the transition team as he kicked off his first planning committee. Kim Do-eun brings the highlights from that session.
South Korean President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol reiterated his will to keep the promises he made on his campaign trail as he kicked off his transition team's planning committee. On Monday, he addressed the first meeting of the group formed to materialize the policies he pledged.
국민의 심부름꾼이고 이 모습이라고 하는 것은 국민들이 볼 때 아주 기민하면서 일 잘하고 아주 똑똑하고 유능하게 하는 것입니다. 그것 말고 뭐가 있겠습니까?
He also emphasized the importance of the role played by the committee's young adults, as he noted his commitment in creating equal opportunities for the young generation. He also said this will be a chance for the young members to learn and be a part of the presidential office, the cabinet, and other government agencies. The launch came at a crucial milestone for the transition committee as a whole, as a first round of putting together the policy agenda for the incoming Yoon administration came to a close. There'll be 2 more rounds of filtering for policy ideas until the agenda is finalized, and it's widely expected that the top priorities will focus on recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. The results from the second round of filtering policy ideas will come in the middle of April, and by the end of the month, the transition team will have its final list. On the 2nd of May, Yoon Suk-yeol is scheduled to announce the new administration's policy agenda along with its priorities. But until that point, the team is refraining from revealing the specific items on the agenda to avoid confusion among the public. Meanwhile, earlier in the day on Monday, the president-elect visited a news photo exhibition near his office and talked about the impact images can have.
몇 장의 사진이 우리 사회를 바꾸고 또 역사를 변화시킵니다. 그래서 이 보도 사진이라는 것은 그냥 보도 기록이 아니라 이것이 그 사진 기자의 어떤 현장 투혼과 그 철학이 담긴 작품이라고 할 수 있습니다.
While the exhibition included a photo of the president-elect himself doing the famous uppercut ceremony, the winning photo this year was of the late former military dictator Chun Doo-hwan. A press photographer caught the moment last year when Chun took a stroll around his neighborhood on his own, while he avoided a court hearing claiming he was too ill to attend. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Over in Ukraine, fresh allegations of civilian killings by Moscow spark international condemnation. Bodies were found in towns near the capital after Russian forces withdrew last week. Ukrainian officials are gathering evidence for probes into alleged war crimes. Our Kim Sung-min is standing by on the line with the latest. Sung-min, do fill us in.
Daniel, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy accused Russia of massacre, saying his country will conduct an investigation into alleged civilian killings by Russian troops. This follows new reports of civilian executions in Bucha, a suburb northeast of Kyiv, with images of hundreds of dead bodies on the streets, as well as mass graves, triggering new international condemnation of Russia and calls for additional sanctions and probes. Ukraine says a task force has found 410 civilian bodies, some with their hands bound, in what Bucha's mayor said could only be described as genocide. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the U.S. is considering additional sanctions, a move echoed by other countries. The European Union said it is mulling ways to put additional sanctions on Russia to hold the country accountable for what appears to be war crimes. French President Emmanuel Macron has also called for sanctions on Russian oil and coal. Ukrainian officials have asked the International Criminal Court to visit Bucha to see the mass graves so that experts can obtain evidence of possible war crimes.
These are ordinary racist/fascists, and they are inhuman. They committed crimes against civilians, raped, killed, shot them in the back of the head. The whole world needs to know about this.
Russia has requested a meeting of the UN Security Council on Monday, claiming provocation by Ukrainian extremists in Bucha. Earlier on Sunday, the Kremlin dismissed the allegations, saying no resident of Bucha suffered violence at the hands of Russian troops.
Well, some experts believe Russia's withdrawal from towns near the capital was to refocus attacks in other parts of the country, and also what's happening on the ground and any progress in diplomatic efforts.
Daniel, Ukraine's forces have retaken the Kyiv region as the Kremlin seemingly refocuses its forces to eastern and southern parts of Ukraine. Britain's defense ministry said on Monday that Russian troops are continuing to consolidate and reorganize as they refocus their offensive into the Donbas region. Ukraine's hard-hit port city Mariupol, where as many as 100,000 people are known to be trapped, continues to see intense fighting. Fortunately, efforts to evacuate civilians in Mariupol are set to resume, with 15 buses en route to the city. That's according to the Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk. According to UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, 1,417 Ukrainian civilians have been killed so far since Russia's invasion, and 2,038 have been injured. But peace efforts are continuing. Ukraine and Russia are scheduled to meet for another round of talks on Monday via video conference. Hopes had been growing for the leaders of the two countries to meet, but Russia shut down that idea on Sunday, saying there's not been enough progress yet in the peace talks. The two sides have been holding several rounds of talks since Russia's invasion began on February 24th, but no real breakthrough has been made so far. That's all I have for now. Back to you, Daniel.
All right, Seong-min, thank you for those updates. We appreciate it. Moving on, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy will deliver a speech to South Korea's parliament next Monday, 5 p.m. local time via video conference. The National Assembly's Foreign Affairs and Unification Committee said the meeting was accepted by the Ukrainian leader upon a request by Lee Kwang-jae of the Democratic Party, who had called for more humanitarian support for Ukrainian refugees. Last month, Zelenskyy addressed the parliament of the U.S. and Japan calling for more international support and pointed out Russia is preparing to use chemical weapons amid continued aggression in Ukraine. An exhibition that shows photos taken from Jeju Island and Ukraine's capital has opened on Jeju, titled One Day Report. It's a collaborative effort between the Jeju International Peace Center and the World Center for Peace, Liberties and Human Rights in Verdun, France. It showcases works of Ukrainian photographer Olena Shovko-Polias, taken throughout a day in March in Kyiv, as well as works by Korean photographer Im Young-ho that reflect how the resort island has overcome the Jeju April 3rd incident. The exhibition, which runs until April 17th, aims to offer visitors a chance to ponder on the sorrows of war and the value of peace. Last Wednesday, South Korea successfully test-fired a wholly domestically developed solid-fuel space rocket for the first time. In 3 years, the country aims to use this technology to put a small satellite into low Earth orbit. Bae Eun-ji explains further.
South Korea aims to use a solid-fuel space rocket to put a 500-kilogram satellite into orbit, 500 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Officials from a research agency under the Defense Ministry told reporters on Monday that it plans to carry out this test in 2025 at Nat'l Space Center in Go-hun County in Jeollanam-do Province. Last week, the country succeeded in test-firing this type of solid-fuel rocket developed by South Korean researchers at a testing site in Taean on the west coast of South Korea. It verified the rocket's key technologies, including its large solid-fuel engine, fairing separation, and stage separation. The test came less than a week after North Korea launched an ICBM on March 24th. So there was a lot of speculation that the test launch was an apparent attempt by South Korea to expand its weapons arsenal. But the officials stressed that there are technical reasons why this is not true. Although the key objective of the satellite, to observe the Earth, could be used for both the military and civilian sectors, they said they did not consider using the rocket as a missile when developing it. Solid-fuel rockets used for military purposes such as ballistic missiles are designed to carry heavy nuclear warheads and focus on hitting a long-range target. But South Korea's solid-fuel rocket was designed to reduce cost while aiming to precisely put a satellite into place, focusing on avoiding damage to other countries. The stages of the rocket that separate from it during the launch will have to fall back down to Earth. And when this happens, the official said, South Korea has to make sure that its neighboring countries, including Japan and the Philippines, will not be affected. The rocket launched in 2025 is expected to be a 4-stage rocket, consisting of 3 solid-fuel rocket sections and the final stage liquid fuel section. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
The war in Ukraine and global supply chain bottlenecks continue to push up food prices. The prices of imported food in South Korea in the 3 months through February have spiked 30% on year, a huge problem for consumers and restaurant owners. Jung helps us look beyond the digits.
Like a lot of people these days, when Seoul resident Bae Kyung-ah shops for groceries, higher prices have her thinking twice before putting things in her cart.
The prices of vegetables have gone up a lot. So has rice and so have meat and fish. With sesame seeds so expensive now, I think the price of sesame oil has gone up 40 or 50% compared to last year. And for a baguette sandwich, it used to be about 6,500 won. Now I think it's almost 8,500 won.
High inflation is alarming consumers as major items on people's grocery shopping lists are becoming more expensive. This is largely caused by the surging import prices of food items. The Korea Trade Statistics Promotion Institute has released its price index for imported agricultural, livestock, and fishery products, which in February came to 112.6. This is a surge of more than 30% compared to the same month a year earlier, and there was a similar on-year increase for the previous 2 months as well. By product, largely because of the war in Ukraine, the price of imported wheat surged by nearly 60% and corn for livestock feed by more than 50%. It's a similar situation with imported fruits and vegetables, the prices of carrots and onions soaring by around 60%. Imported meat too, beef and chicken both soaring by around 50%. This has got people who run restaurants worried about their livelihoods.
I'm having a hard time because most food prices have gone up, some by as much as 80%. The situation is dragging on and it's been quite hard mentally. I'm really worried it'll never end.
Some experts call it eggflation and see it lasting for a good while longer.
The rise in inflation these past several months centers mostly on agricultural products. And because they impact a wide range of consumer goods, the effect is likely to last longer. Inflationary pressure is expected to continue for about 8 months, depending on the Bank of Korea's monetary policy.
In February, the country saw consumer prices rise by more than 3% for a fifth straight month, with the consumer price index going up by 3.7% on year. Data on consumer prices in March are due out Tuesday. And to ease the burden on consumers from another major source of inflation, the government is looking at cutting fuel taxes by a record 30%. 엄지영, Arirang News.
A big night in Las Vegas. The 64th Grammy Awards brought all the music superstars together. BTS performed at the show but did not clinch a prize. The president of Ukraine also made an appearance via video message asking for support. Kim Bo-kyung has the full story.
The 64th Annual Grammy Awards has brought the music world to Las Vegas. Music's biggest night took place at MGM Grand Garden Arena on Sunday local time. And though every artist was a star, Jon Batiste caught viewers' eyes. He had earned 11 nominations, more than any other act this year, and won 5 awards, including the most prestigious of the night, Album of the Year for his acclaimed We Are.
When my name came and the We Are title was said by Lenny, such a full circle moment because we played together when I was 16. So it just felt, it was surreal.
Retro soul duo Silk Sonic were also among the big winners, snatching 4 awards including Record and Song of the Year with their single Leave the Door Open, while Olivia Rodrigo won Best New Artist. South Korean superstars BTS saw their song Butter included in the nominations for the category of Best Pop Duo Group Performance, but they were bested by Doja Cat's Kiss Me More. It was the second time in 2 years that BTS had been nominated for the category. Though they missed out on the award, the K-pop stars performed for the 3rd consecutive year at the Grammys, mesmerizing the whole world. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy appeared in a video during the ceremony, and while he opened his speech by saying the opposite to music is the silence of ruined cities and killed people, he appealed to viewers to support Ukrainians in any way you can.
On our land, we are fighting Russia, which brings horrible silence with its bombs, the death silence. Feel the silence with your music. Feel it today to tell our story. Tell the truth about the war on your social networks, on TV. Support us in any way you can, but not silence.
His emotional speech was followed by a performance of Free by singer John Legend, joined by Ukrainian artists. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Mild temperatures will continue for tomorrow, but this will also bring wide temperature gaps. In fact, maximum temperatures will be over 20 degrees for some regions like Gangneung and Gangwon-do province. Big fluctuation in temperatures can weaken our immune system. Dressing in layers will be recommended to keep your body temperatures warm. Some areas are under stagnant air, causing fine dust particles to linger around. Parts of central regions will see dusty conditions until tomorrow. The Seoul metropolitan area, eastern Gangwon-do and Chungcheong-do provinces will see dust levels standing in the bad category. The rest of the nation will see air quality in normal levels. Morning lows range from 1 to 9 degrees Celsius nationwide. Seoul will start off at 5 degrees. And daytime highs will be 1 to 2 degrees higher than today. Seoul will get up to 16 degrees. Daejeon and Gwangju 18 and Gyeongju will be warm at 22 degrees. Central regions, including the Seoul metropolitan area, will see showers for Thursday morning. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.